My name is Naserian. I'm a mother of three from the Red Earth Plains near Kajiado in Kenya, where acacia trees lean into the wind and the sky feels close enough to touch. I grew up in an enkang, a family homestead ringed with thorn branches to keep the goats safe at night. I know the sound of cowbells at dawn, the weight of a water gourd on the head, the snap of dry grass under bare feet. I know the smell of smoke on a shuka after sitting by the fire with elders who talk until the stars are bright as salt. I didn't think I would ever talk this way about death, or about love so large it feels like a country of its own. But I have to tell you what happened to me because it changed everything I am. For a long time, years really, I lived inside a small circle of worry. My husband died after an illness when our youngest was still a baby. I was 34, and suddenly everything, school fees, food, water, repairs, sat on my shoulders like stones. I learned to smile with my mouth while my heart counted the shillings. I learned to say, "We are fine," when fine was far away. I went to the river at first light. I sold beadwork in the market. I cooked, washed, soothed, bargained, prayed. I slept like a guard, one ear always listening. I loved my children fiercely, but I felt unseen. I used to whisper into the dark, "God, do you see me?" One dry season, I fell sick. It began like many fevers, ache, heat, a shiver under the sun. I told myself I could push through, that mothers don't fall. But the fever climbed like a fire up dry grass. My breathing turned shallow and thin. By night, my brother and a neighbor lifted me onto a motorbike. I remember the road as a ribbon of dust and wind, the way the moon hung low like a calabash. I remember thinking, if I can just lie down at the clinic, I will be all right. That is the last ordinary thought I had. I have been told later that my body reached the clinic and then stopped. That nurses worked on me. That my heart went silent for minutes. That felt like a long time to the living. But that is not what I experienced. What I experienced was this: a softness, a quiet so tender it surprised me. Not the quiet of an empty room, but the quiet of being held. I opened my eyes, but they were not these eyes. There was light, but not like a lamp or the sun. It was a living light, as if warmth itself had learned how to shine. I did not stand or float. I simply was. The place around me looked like mist with its own heartbeat, a silver veil that moved without wind. Everything was gentle. Everything was safe. And then I heard singing. It wasn't a language, not Ma, not Swahili, not English. It was harmony, the way water is wet, part of its nature. The sound moved through me like a river through reeds. I wasn't listening to music. I was inside the music, and the music was inside me. I looked, and I saw a body on a table, brown skin rinsed in clinic light, a nurse pressing, another calling my name. There was no fear, only a distant sympathy, like when you see a stranger stumble and you want them to rise. Then a thought arrived as clear as a bell. That is me. I didn't panic. I didn't grasp at it. I felt a pull, but not like gravity, more like mercy drawing a long thread. The light grew brighter and brighter, and with the brightness came a presence. If love put on light, that presence is what it would look like. It had no edges and every edge. It wasn't a man or a woman or an ancestor or an angel. It was all the best of those things and more. It knew me. I could feel that it knew me. Every breath I had taken, every dry tear, every time I laughed big enough to show my back teeth. I didn't hear words with my ears, but knowing flooded me the way dawn floods a valley. The first knowing was simple, and it undid me. You are loved. You were never alone. I cannot explain the relief of that. Imagine carrying a bucket for years, not knowing there was a spring just beyond the hill. Imagine someone taking your bucket and saying, "You don't have to carry this by yourself." My spirit sank to its knees and said, "Thank you." The presence, that living light, wrapped around me like a shawl. I felt seen in a way I had not known was possible, like every hidden room in me had windows now. And then the light opened and I began to review my life. People ask what a life review is. It wasn't a movie, not one scene following another while you sit with popcorn. It was everything at once, 1,000 beads on one string, and the string was love. I saw myself as a small girl, legs dusty, running after goats, my mother laughing, the sound like wooden beads clicking. I felt the joy of that child, bright as mango. I saw the day I took a handful of sugar when no one was looking. I felt my mother's confusion when it was gone, and I felt my own small shame like a flutter. The light didn't accuse me. It cared only that I understood how everything touches everything. I saw the day my friend fell on the path, and I helped her up, how the warmth of my hand traveled into her day like a lamp. I saw the time I spoke sharp to an old woman at the well because I was tired. I felt the sting my words left in her chest, how it stayed there longer than I imagined. I saw my oldest son watching me from the doorway the evening his father died. I felt his fear, his helpless anger, and the way he decided in that moment to become a shield. I saw my middle child's quiet hunger for my smile. I saw my youngest daughter's small hands turning my face toward hers. And then I saw my husband. He was laughing the way he used to laugh when we were young, when everything tasted like tomorrow. I felt his love for me, tender and a little shy. I felt his helplessness when he was sick and I wouldn't let anyone see me cry. I saw the last night, the way his fingers relaxed in mine, the way I turned my head and told him it was okay to go, and then said into the floor, "Don't go." The light wrapped me closer as if to say, "Be gentle with yourself. You were doing your best." I saw things I had forgotten and things I wished to forget. The presence did not weigh them on a scale. It showed me how love multiplies and how hurt echoes. And it asked me without words, "Do you see? Will you learn?" And then the scene changed. I found myself standing, if standing is the word, in a wide plain that shimmered like heat over water. But it wasn't heat, it was life. The grass was light made thin. Each blade sang a note when the knot wind passed through. The sky had depth, color layered on color in a way that made my chest open. Far off or very near were shapes like people, and not like people, shining in a way that did not blind. They were themselves and more. I knew them the way you know a tune after hearing only 3 notes. My grandmother Naipanoi came forward. She had been gone since I was a child, but there she was, beautiful as a new moon. Not young, not old, timeless. Her eyes held all the tenderness I needed. She didn't speak with her mouth. She spoke to my being. I felt her pride in me and the way she had stayed close to us all along, the way a hand stays near a baby learning to walk. Behind her were others, ancestors I had only heard in stories, faces like rivers I had never visited and yet recognized. I wanted to stay there forever. The peace was not the absence of noise, it was the presence of truth. It was home the way home was meant to be. But there was a boundary. Perhaps it was a river. Perhaps a line of light so thick it looked solid. I understood that crossing it would be a choice. On one side, the presence, the singing, the field. On the other side, the dust and sweat of this world, my children, my unfinished love. The presence turned me gently, and then it showed me my daughter. She was at the clinic, small beside a bed, too big for her, clutching my wrist, with both hands the way children hold onto a swing. Her hair was messy, her eyes red. She whispered, "Mama, don't go." I felt the thread between us, a golden umbilical, a tether made of love and need and promise. I felt my sons too, the way they were already dividing their hearts into strong enough and still a child. I felt my brother's faith shaking and trying to stand. The presence asked me, not in words, "Do you want to stay? You may. Do you want to return? You may." I looked at the shining plain. I looked at the boundary, at the ones I loved on both sides, and I answered with my whole being, "I will go back. If the path is hard, let my steps be light for others." The light grew even brighter, not harder. It was like walking into a song so beautiful you think you will break from joy, and then discovering you are the instrument that can carry it. There was no fear. There was a single simple trust. The presence wrapped me once more, and I understood this blessing. I would not return empty. I would carry a small ember of that place inside my chest. Then I fell, or rather, I fit back into myself like a hand into a glove that had been drying in the sun. Sound returned first, harsh, tangled, too fast. A cry, a name, my name, then weight, like a mountain pressed against me from all sides. My chest burned and then opened like someone had knocked at a door until the hinges gave way. I sucked air in, and the air was heavy with the world, iodine and cloth and the faint scent of fear. A nurse sobbed once, a small sound. A man said, "She's breathing." Coming back hurt. It hurt to be inside skin again, to carry gravity, to hear edges. But beneath the hurt, there was a steady warmth. The ember the presence had tucked into me. I knew without knowing how that it would not go out. Days passed. The clinic, the careful walking, the neighbors bringing soup and stories, my children touching me as if I might dissolve into air. The elders from our church came to pray and to ask questions they did not quite ask. Some people looked at me with wide eyes and then looked away. Some called it a miracle, others a dream. A few said fever can show you tricks. I did not argue with anyone. I only said I was there. I was loved. I was sent back on purpose. At night I would wake before dawn and step outside. The sky would still be black in the west and bruised purple in the east. The goats would murmur. The wind would walk soft fingers through the thorn fence. I would close my eyes and there it was again. The music, very quiet, like a memory that refuses to leave. I learned to breathe with it. I learned to let it move me. Changes began in small ways. I found I could not speak sharp anymore, not even when I was tired. The words caught in my mouth and softened before they reached my children. I started blessing the water before I lifted the gourd, thanking it for being itself. When someone cut in front of me at the borehole, I felt the anger rise and then fade like a wave that does not find shore. Not because I am a saint, because I remembered that each person is carrying an invisible load. I went to the market with my beadwork as usual, but my eye kept catching certain faces. Tired mothers, old men with hands that shook, a boy who laughed too loud because he was afraid no one saw him. I began carrying a second small bag with bananas and mandasi, just enough to share. When I gave one away, I felt the same hum I had felt in the light, as if the string of beads that is this life had clicked into the right place. There were bigger changes, too. A neighbor and I had quarreled for years over a path the goats took between our homes. The quarrel had woven itself into everything, so that even shared songs felt bitter. After I returned, I went to her door and stood there until she came out. We stared. I could see the tightness in her jaw, the readiness to fight, because that is what we had trained each other to do. I took her hands. I said, I have been to the edge of the world and I am sorry. She cried. I cried. We took the thorn branches down and built a gate instead. I began to talk to my children about what happened, carefully at first, then openly. I told them about the presence that wore light. I told them about the review, about how love multiplies and hurt echoes. I told them that the point is not to never make mistakes. The point is to learn to love better. My oldest asked if the light is God. I said the light is God's language. My middle child asked if their father was there. I said, yes, and he laughs like he used to. My youngest asked if death is scary. I said, no. It is like stepping from sunlight into shade and then discovering the shade shines too. Some people wanted proof. They asked for details of machines and minutes. I could give them what the nurses told me, how long my heart stopped, what they did to call me back. But those are the shadows on the wall. The real thing is the fire itself. I learned not to try to pull anyone to my side. I simply tell my story like you are hearing it now and let it do what it will do. I also went back to the places in my life where the review had shown me shadows. I apologized to the old woman I had snapped at. I wrote a letter to a friend I had neglected after my husband died. Because her happiness felt like an insult to my grief, I asked her forgiveness. I sat with my children and told them where I had been too hard and too absent, and I asked them what they needed from me now. They said, Mama, sit with us more. So I started sitting. I thought sitting would feel like doing nothing. It felt like building a house I didn't know we were missing. With a couple of women from church, I helped start a small water-sharing circle. On the days when the borehole is crowded or dry, we take turns using large storage drums so no one is empty. It is not a big project, no donor, no official, but I have learned that small streams make rivers. When we pushed the drum into place, I remember the boundary of light and the choice I made, and I am grateful I chose to come back and push this drum. Not everything became easy. It is important for me to say that. The same sun still burns. The same bills still ask to be seen. There are days when I am tired and lonely and the dust gets into everything. There are moments when I forget the music for hours, but even on those days, the ember glows inside my chest. If I sit still and breathe, I feel it. If I bless something ordinary, a spoon, a child's shoulder, the path to the latrine, the ember brightens. It is like being taught a song you can hum even with your mouth closed. I began to make a new kind of beadwork too. Patterns I had never seen before, circles inside circles, a white thread of light running through red earth and black night into blue morning. I don't sell all of them. Some I hang by the door so that anyone who enters or leaves brushes the thread of light without knowing. When someone dies now, I grieve differently. I still cry. We all do. But beneath the crying is a knowing that feels older than my bones. I imagine them stepping into the soft mist, the living light opening like a door, the ancestors turning with joy the way we turn when a child we love comes home. I imagine the review, how they will see their kindnesses like candles and their injuries like smoke, and how the presence will hold them until they understand. I say to the family, they have not vanished. They have gone where love is the weather. People ask me what the light told me to bring back, like a message rolled in a reed and tied with twine. I have 3 answers. First, love is not an emotion. It is a way of being. You can feel angry and still be loving. You can feel tired and still be loving. Love is the posture of your spirit, the way you bend toward or away from someone. Bend toward. Second, nothing is wasted. Not the laughter, not the tears, not the small acts that felt like drops in a dry season. Everything belongs to the string. If you cannot do a big thing, do a small true thing. It will echo. Third, you are not alone. Even when your room is empty, you are seen. There are eyes on you that do not judge and hands near you that do not grasp. Ask for help out loud. Say, be with me. You will feel the ember answer. Sometimes late, when my children are asleep and the goats have settled and the night insects start their choir, I walk a little beyond the homestead and lie down on the earth. The ground holds the day's heat like a memory. Above me, stars. I close my eyes and there it is, the field, the music, the familiar, unfamiliar faces, my grandmother's hands. I feel the presence even here, not as a flood this time, but as a steady stream. I whisper, I remember. The wind rests its palm on my cheek as if to say, I remember you too. I used to be afraid that telling this would make people think I am foolish. I am not afraid anymore. If you think I dreamed it, I bless you. If you think I died and came back, I bless you. If you do not know what to think, I bless you. My work is not to convince. My work is to shine the small light I carry so others can see the next step on their path. I will finish with this. There is a place beyond our fear where everything true about us remains. We are not the worst thing we have done or the worst thing done to us. We are not the sum of our losses. We are not the names people gave us when they were hurting. We are beloved. We can learn. We can start again at noon or at dusk. We can be a gate where there used to be a thorn fence. If you are listening to me now and you feel unseen, hear me. You are seen. If you are tired, lay your burden down on the ground of this moment and breathe. If you have hurt someone, go and repair what you can. If someone has hurt you, ask the presence to hold the part of you that still stings. And if you are standing at any boundary of courage, of forgiveness, of trying again, know that you do not stand there alone. One day I will cross the bright river. We all will. When I do, I will run like a girl again, my feet light, my laughter loud. My grandmother will open her arms. The music will be everywhere. Until that day, I will carry what I was given. I will make tea. I will braid my daughter's hair. I will greet the sun. I will keep the ember warm. I will love as if it is the only language anyone truly understands, because in the deepest place it is. This is my story. I saw the light, and it saw me. And I came back to tell you that love is the point of everything.